Hello, my name is Elliot from Team 4, and today we will be reviewing Team 1's project. Team 1's project wants to implement a customer support system to answer any questions customers might have. To make sure that the system is secure, they want to incorporate a CAPTCHA system from Google. The support system will be divided into two categories. One is for customer support, and the other one is for IT support. All users will be able to submit responses until the issue is resolved, and customers can even delete the report if they'd like. As an organization, employees will have a much easier time with the system as it's organized and they can rapidly respond to tickets. As a business, customers will be happy they can receive support in a secure way. And technology-wise, making sure communication is secure and encrypted is very important. For feedback, I thought that the employees that are looking at the report should have 2FA enabled. This is an added layer of security. This is important because they could be potentially looking at sensitive information. I don't think that employees should need to complete a CAPTCHA. I think that a 2FA is better and more secure, and only the customer should need to do the CAPTCHA. Employees should also be able to close reports. This is important in a support system because it tells the employees which tickets they need to respond to and which tickets they don't. I like the idea of a phone-based support system. This allows customers to actually talk to a person live, and they should include a FAQ area for common IT issues that people have. This is so that employees don't have to constantly answer the same questions over and over again. So for the assumptions, both the user and the support team should be able to view the full report, and other employees should be able to respond to other reports in case the topic is in a specific field.
Okay, so for the stakeholders, what was covered in the group speech was about the executive's role, employees, customer support unit, IT support unit, developers, and customers. It had a brief description, which I do believe is important in just mentioning in the presentation, as well as just discussing the difference in customer employee roles as main users. They briefly said how both are main users of the tool, but just differentiating between their usages, as well as just briefly giving an example of an executive's objective or goal. For the economic feasibility, the positives were shown for customer retention, increased revenue, ROI, employee production, and satisfied customers. For my feedback, just elaborating more on how employee production plays hand in hand with saving money from efficiency. And there were great positives and few negatives for the net benefit of the project, but just exploring the downside of how not having on-site IT department can possibly defer certain customers that might prefer the one-on-one experience of being able to solve problems. For organizational feasibility, their project spoke about the low risk, high reward and giving employees and customers something to look forward to. My feedback was just highlighting interests of what executives want to get out of it by showing what customers, employees will get out of it, and just going over management's execution of key objectives and goals. For the technological feasibility, the project discussed the helpfulness of CAPTCHAs with security and the integration of employees being able to code and customize CAPTCHAs. For my feedback, it had great positives for customization and smoothness of the system running. It highlighted a key downside, which is a delay due to CAPTCHA, but just elaborating more on other delays other than CAPTCHAs like network connection issues, delaying IT and non-IT support. For the ethical feasibility, they talked about the privacy being a top priority with the privacy of people's information being stored on the company servers from the start of the development stage. I would just elaborate and discuss more who has access to certain sensitive information and just add some info of maybe certain redacted or hidden information to protect customer accounts that a higher level employee would need to access to view.
Now on to the requirements review. First, with the functional requirements, we do think that all of them align perfectly with the proposed system. though we suggest that they add an additional requirement that says customer IT support team should be able to update or close down an issue. That way, the system knows if any action has been done to a specific issue, and they'd be able to reflect that on the status of that issue. And onto the non-functional requirements, all of them also aligns with the proposed system, but we also want to specify that login and sign up must be secure, since that's one of the main features of the system, which is the security.
Team 1's hardware requirement was for the user to have access to a computer or smartphone. A computer or smartphone is aligned within the project environment because these technological tools are essential for the process to begin. Team 1's software requirement is web browsers such as Safari, Chrome, Firefox. The project environment is on-site, meaning that the user would have to be on the financial institution's website in order to use the IT support assistance feature. Team 1's database requirement is the Oracle database, which is needed in order to hold the data of their customers because customers will have their accounts, profiles, and finance all saved in the financial institution website. One thing I feel that should be added to the database requirement is a CAPTCHA database. The CAPTCHA database program is essential for users to keep their finance private. CAPTCHA emits images that the user has to identify correctly in order to be fully authenticated. Team 1's network requirement is internet connection. With a stable internet connection, the customer can connect to the website and use the website's features. Customers can receive their support. IT/customer support can assist the customers with their support.
So moving on to the systems analysis feedback, first we have the usage model, which Team 1 did a great job in designing. My feedback for this was clarifying what the employee means in this case. So it seems as if the employee's actions relate to those of the support teams. However, it was a bit confusing because employees are another actor of this system. So if Team 1 meant for employees to represent the support teams, I would just change the name of this actor and also add another actor to represent the employees. Other suggestions I had was splitting up the verified credentials requirement to include the emphasis on the CAPTCHA, as well as making sure that there is a consistency between some of the requirements listed and the model. Next, for the use case specification, the biggest feedback I had here was separating it into two use case specifications, because in this first one, it focuses on the customer raising an issue, and there should be a second one that looks at what happens when the support teams respond to an issue. These are two different flows, and so I feel like they should be in two separate use cases. Other suggestions I had focused on just making sure that the basic flow of the use case made sense and that there was nothing missing based on what was said in the requirements. Moving on to the business process model, this was all good, but the biggest thing that stood out to me was that in order to view an issue response, a customer first has to go through the screen of raising an issue, and I felt like this wasn't as efficient because the customer should just be able to view a response without having to first go through the page of issuing a response. And so I tried to find a way in which we could remodel that. And so this is the reworked version that I created. It is by no means perfect, and there's probably things that could be improved. It's just a simple way of how I saw the system running. And so instead of the customer having to go through the screen of first raising an issue and then viewing the response, I felt like the system should ask if whether they want to raise an issue or do they want to view a response. I think this is the most efficient way to do it. This could probably be made a lot more complex, but this is how I just envisioned it to work. And lastly, for the conceptual model, pretty much everything here was good. The only comments I had were for small things. So, for example, there was a method mentioned of viewing issue status, but it was the first time that that was mentioned in the report. So I just make sure that everything is consistent. And then I also suggested looking into making one of the relationships an inheritance relationship, as there are two different types of support staff, and they are going to have a parent class and a child class. So that is something that Team 1 might want to consider. But other than that, all the systems analysis made sense. They really reflected the requirements, and I thought that they did a good job.